Hey guys, welcome to a new movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the new live action remake of Aladdin from Disney. I'm a huge fan of the original animated film from 1992. I remember watching that film so many times as a kid on my old VHS tape of the film. I think it's actually back here somewhere in my movie collection of my hundreds of movies that I own. But I rewatched that film so many times as a kid. I actually remember playing the Super Nintendo video game of Aladdin. There's just so many things about the Aladdin property overall that I have fond memories with. I even remember the Aladdin TV show on the Disney Channel from way back in the day. Yes, there was some type of animated show they did for Aladdin way back in the day. Um, Return of Jafar, all that stuff. All that stuff I remember really well. So this film was very important to me because he had, not only do they have to remake this classic story that I love so much in animated form from Disney, but they have to find a way to kind of tell a new version of it, make something new with it, come up with new material for it, still tell that original story, still do all the things that I love about the original, but they have to come up with a new way of telling the story. So that's what we're here to review for you today is this new 2019 live action remake from director Guy Ritchie, who directed the Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr. a couple years ago. So let's talk about Aladdin. So if you don't know the story of Aladdin, basically what it is in both this version and in the animated one, pretty much too, is there's a street rat thief named Aladdin who basically lives off the streets, doesn't have a lot of money, doesn't really know his parents very well. But one day he gets an opportunity from somebody to retrieve a magical lamp from a cave of wonders. But the twist about this cave of wonders is you have to just take the lamp. You cannot take any other treasures with you, as tempting as they might look. You can only take the lamp with you, take it out of the cave, get your three wishes granted from a genie, and that's it. So basically, I won't get into too much detail because it is a little different as to how Aladdin gets the opportunity to retrieve this magical lamp. So I'm going to keep that for those who still haven't seen it yet as to how Aladdin gets that chance to do that in this movie. And so he gets to the Cave of Wonders. He basically gets betrayed, and really, this really isn't spoiler territory, mostly because most of this is covered in the trailers, and most of this is covered in the animated film as well. So basically, what I'm telling you is all comfortable stuff that you're probably going to know going into this film, and just non-spoiler stuff overall. So he gets the chance to see this magical lamp, and once again, he gets three wishes of his choice, and through the power of this genie, he gets to pursue these wishes that he has the greatest desires to do, and he has a huge love interest on Princess Jasmine that he met earlier on in the film, and it's mostly about him trying to come up with ways to use these three wishes to the best of their potential to get the love of his life and to make himself happier too. So overall, guys, I really liked Aladdin a lot. I will say right off the bat, I do like the animated version better. It's not a humongous difference. That original animated film, it's so close to my heart. It's one of my favorite Disney films next to, Lion King and Toy Story and a couple of other big ones that I really like. So obviously it's not going to be as good as that original animated film, but I gotta say, for being a live action film, for there being a lot of worries as to how Will Smith was going to play the genie and stuff like that, just the overall idea of taking something that's animated and looking good in animated form, translating it to live action. I think this Aladdin film did a really good job. I really enjoyed this film overall. So let's go over some positives and negatives of what I really liked about it and what it really could have done better to possibly stand up to that animated film even more than it did. So for my positives of this new Aladdin film, first and foremost, Will Smith as the genie, magnificent. He really was a very good choice for the genie. Obviously, Robin Williams played a genie that we're going to remember forever. His version of the genie, obviously, is untouchable. So thankfully, Will Smith, he did a very different approach to the genie. This genie is more fun, more likable. Um, He's a little more personable than Robin Williams' Genie was. He really is kind of there to make sure that your life is happy, that not only you're getting your three wishes granted, but your own life is happy as these three wishes are being granted. I felt like the Robin Williams one was more so about like the pop culture references and having an opinion on things that Aladdin kind of asked him about every once in a while. Once again, Robin Williams is the better genie. I'm not trying to persuade you differently, but I'm just kind of telling you how I feel these two genies are different. But really, Will Smith really was a very fun genie here. Since he has a music career in his background, Will Smith used that to his advantage for this genie interpretation. Just a ton of fun. I loved what he did with the genie, and I loved how he tried to separate it from the Robin Williams interpretation the best he could. And once again, this is a very fun and musical film. It's one of those films where even if you don't like musicals, the musical numbers are just a ton of fun here, whether they are new songs or old songs returning in new form. Just a ton of fun here, and I love the musical numbers they had in this movie. Naomi Scott played Princess Jasmine in this film, and she was almost near perfect casting. I can't imagine any other person on earth playing Princess Jasmine after seeing her play it. She really sang the character really well. She performed the character really well. Yes, she was very beautiful. Yes, she's a very much a female character that I think a lot of female audiences are going to look up to after seeing this film. Very strong character. Definitely not one of those people where she's waiting for Aladdin to come save her. She's doing things on her own. She's doing things that kind of are best for her kingdom and her palace. I just loved how Naomi Scott played this character. Very good job on her end. I also like the actor who played Aladdin in this. I think his name is Mena Massoud, from what I looked up not too long ago. I thought he was a very fun Aladdin. I would even say in the musical numbers, he sounds a lot like the original voice of Aladdin did in those musical numbers. I thought he was a very good choice, very likable, just a ton of fun. Definitely, probably one of the best live action interpretations you could probably get out of an Aladdin character. So whether it was Guy Ritchie or somebody from Disney giving this guy the yes to play Aladdin, I thought they did a terrific job casting him. This is a very nice looking, colorful film. I'm kind of glad they didn't go with a dark and gritty look like some people were hoping for. I'm glad that they went with a more nicer looking, more colorful Aladdin film. I think it just fits the story better, and it fits the story better in live action format. So, thumbs up to Guy Ritchie for going that approach over that dark and gritty approach that some were kind of probably hoping for, something that some were expecting Guy Ritchie to take with this film, with this action movie background. But I liked how it was more of a nice looking, colorful film. Princess Jasmine has a new character that's strongly attached to her character in this film. She's kind of like an assistant character, and I ended up really liking her character a lot. I won't get into too much detail. She does have both significance with Jasmine and the genie that I can't get into too much detail on, but I liked how I definitely got more interested in the idea of Jasmine having an assistant in the palace. Whenever she showed up in the film, just a ton of fun. Her humor worked very well. Just like Jasmine, she also was very beautiful. Definitely very worthy of making sure Jasmine was all right at all times. Really liked this character, and I really liked how this actress portrayed this character too. Can't get into too much detail on this one, but all I'm going to say is the opening scene has more significance than the original animated film did. So that is one thing that the live action film does have over the animated one. The animated one kind of did a fun little thing with Robin Williams playing a different character, even though he played the genie later on in the film. This new opening scene does do something interesting with Will Smith. Can't get into too much detail on it, but if you tune in throughout the movie and kind of see as the film progresses why that opening scene was there and why it's significant later in the film, I thought it was wonderful. I really thought it was a very interesting way to open the film and a very rewarding way to end the film later on too. Guy Ritchie's action film background, and as a director of directing action films, I thought this came in handy whenever there was an action scene in this film. There was definitely an Aladdin moment where he's trying to run away from an Iago, the little parrot that Jafar has, in like this gigantic monstrous form. Very effective. Whenever there was an action moment with Aladdin, with him, running away on the streets as a street rat or something like that, Guy Ritchie's action film background really helped these scenes a lot. So I can kind of see why Disney wanted to let him direct this film, simply because his sense of action is very good for scenes like that. So thumbs up to Guy Ritchie once again for coming up with some really neat action movie moments for some moments here in this Aladdin movie. Now, for my negatives of this new Aladdin film, some of the dialogue delivery is very bland in this movie, unfortunately. Without giving too much away, the scene where there's a prince trying to meet Jasmine and he kind of pushes Aladdin to the side and calls him a street rat and everything, that scene in particular was very rushed, very bland compared to how the animated film did it. I thought the voice actor they got in the animated film was just more better at delivering those lines than whoever the live action person was. There is a lot more than just that scene where something like this happens. Some of the dialogue just feels very bland in certain scenes, so that is one negative I had with the film. I also say too, as much as I didn't hate this new Jafar, I thought this actor who played Jafar was just nowhere near as good as the animated version of Jafar was. I thought that voice actor was far more convincing as a villain. Yeah, he's not bad, but definitely nowhere near as good as that animated version of Jafar, just nowhere near as threatening. So that was one thing about this new version of Jafar that I thought wasn't quite as effective. I also thought this new Aladdin film was about 15 minutes too long. You can definitely tell they added new material into this film, and as a result, it just feels a little too long in the tooth at times. That original animated Aladdin film had, I think, a perfect runtime of 92 minutes, kind of the perfect time to tell the Aladdin story. This time around, they kind of stretched it about 15 minutes too long. There's one scene that happens at a party that goes on for way too long in this film that I can't give too much detail on, but a little too long for its own good. I think a good solid 15 minutes could have been removed from the film and it would have had a better runtime as a result. There's also just some really boring scene recreations in this movie. The scene with Abu getting intrigued by a ruby in the Cave of Wonders, much better handled in the animated version. The way they handled that scene in this film is just very boring. Even just the Cave of Wonders in general is just very boring in comparison. It just wasn't a very interesting Cave of Wonders this time around. And that's not just the only thing. There's a lot of other scenes in here where they're trying to recreate certain big moments, and they just kind of come off as boring as a result. And I do overall think the animated version of Aladdin just has a lot more energy and magic to it. You believe the genie magic a little bit more in the animated one. This time around, it's just more so Will Smith performing magic tricks, and just the energy in that animated film. The energy just had a little bit more punch to it. Not to say that this film didn't have energy, but there was just a little more punch to that animated film than to the live action version. So overall, Aladdin 2019, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Really like this film. Like I said, 8.5 out of 10 for me. I really liked it. I think if you like that original animated Aladdin, I think it is worth seeing. Like I said, it's not going to be your new favorite Aladdin. Robin Williams is still pretty much the perfect genie, even though Will Smith did do a very good job in this movie. 8.5 out of 10 for me. Really liked it. Be sure to see the new Aladdin film. It's really good.